Welcome to the Willows Planning Commission meeting for July 7th, 2026, Willows City Hall at 6 p.m. Our first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. And Michael, would you lead us in that? Please stand.
Salute.
Thank you very much. Roll call
Chair Quorum,
here.
Vice Chair McNeil,
Here.
Commissioner Nygaard. Here. Commissioner Brat. Here. Commissioner Powell. Here. Thank you.
Okay. Our next item is if there's any recommended changes to the agenda. Anybody have any changes they want?
I was going to see if the commission approves if we could move public comment item 6 and consent calendar in front of item 5 presentation for the planning commission training, just in case we have any public comment that they want to do before the planning commission training.
I'm okay with that.
Wait a minute now, I've got to catch up. You want to move the public comment?
Yeah, correct.
Okay,
In front of the presentation, item 5.
okay. All right, we can do that. We're going to move item 6 up ahead of item 5. Public comment and consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered routine and may be approved with a single vote unless removed for separate discussion by the chair and commissioners. Individuals wishing to speak on consent items or matters not on the agenda are asked to complete a speaker card and submit it to the city clerk. All remarks shall be directed to the chair and commissioners and are limited to 3 minutes. By law, the commissioners cannot discuss or take action on items not listed or on the posted agenda. So, is there any public comment tonight on any of the items that we have on our agenda? Joe, did you have something specific in that area?
Nope, we just had members of the public here, so I wanted to give them an opportunity to speak if they wanted it prior to the presentation. So
Okay.
that was the only reason.
Well, while we are on item 6, I'll go ahead with 6A. Minutes approval. Recommended action is to approve the minutes of May 5th, 2026. So I would entertain a motion for that.
I move to approve the May 5th meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we will jump back up to number 5, the presentation. A planning commission training. Recommended action is participate in a planning commission training provided by Harris and Associates. So I will turn it over to staff.
So just as a recap, Amy Rossick from Harrison Associates, our contract planner, is going to be providing a training. I think 3 of you commissioners have been through it before, and Vice Chair McNeil and Commissioner Powell are new to this. So we kind of just wanted to give a refresher for everybody and get you guys an intro to the live training. So with that, I'll pass it off to Amy.
All right. Good evening. Amy Rossick with Harrison Associates. You go to the next slide. Okay. So I've broken this training up into 3 parts. The first one is why are we here? Kind of like a planning 101, the fundamentals of it. The second one would be about your role as a planning commissioner. And then the third one is the fun stuff, which is all the legalities that you should know as a planning commissioner. As we go through this training, feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions. We can kind of discuss as we go along. So we're going to begin with the framework. Land use planning in California is guided by a mix of state law, local plans, and community input. Your role as a commissioner sits at the intersection of all of these: general plans, specific plan, zoning ordinances, and other planning documents. So the general plan is the blueprint for future development. Every city in California has to have a general plan. It includes required elements for housing, land use, safety, and other elements. And this would provide some framework and consistency as we review projects. Zoning, on the other hand, is a little bit different than a general plan, and it essentially tells us how we can go to where we want to go. The zoning code regulates land use developments with development standards, and it outlines findings of facts that we have to make in order to approve or deny a project. Another key aspect is CEQA, or the California Environmental Quality Act, and it ensures that we evaluate projects for their environmental impacts, and we do this before approving a project. It's about transparency and minimizing harm and balancing development with sustainability. The goals of CEQA is to inform decision makers like yourselves about environmental impacts and identify ways to avoid environmental impacts. So there's kind of four main types of CEQA documents. The first one is an exemption, which is what you see on most of the projects here in Willows. The state outlines specific CEQA exemptions for specific types of projects, and typically in Willows we can find a CEQA exemption, and this kind of eliminates further environmental review for a project. But if a project does not qualify for a CEQA exemption, then we kind of move on to the next step, which is we would review with a very thorough checklist to determine the environmental impacts of a project. And through that checklist, we can land on a negative declaration, which means that there are no environmental impacts of the project, or a mitigated negative declaration, which says that with certain mitigation measures, the project would have less than a significant impact on the environment. And then the last kind, the fourth kind, is a environmental impact report, which is a very, very detailed project. And it goes into a lot of technical studies, technical analysis. And it usually concludes that there would be some sort of environmental impact and that it is unavoidable, and it is mainly a way to disclose what kind of impacts a project would have. So your role as a planning commissioner, when we as staff bring projects before you, there's going to be two main categories, two kinds of projects. One is going to be long-range planning, and the other one will be current planning. So long-range planning is if we were to update the general plan or the housing element or the zoning code like Title 18, which we've been working on. You will conduct a public hearing, review it, and then you provide a recommendation to City Council. So ultimately, you wouldn't be making a final decision, you would be making a recommendation to City Council.
I want to hop
Yeah,
in there real
for
quick.
sure.
Too. Yeah, just I think our general plan is good through 2029, and to me that always seems like so far away. And I remember we're in 2026, so we will be going through that process again in a somewhat midterm future. So that kind of goes and looks at everything, like Avery said, big overarching goals. If you haven't looked through the general plan, there's some interesting stuff in it and a lot of boring stuff in it. So you could feel free to check that out. But in a couple of years, we'll be looking at updating that again.
So the second type is current planning projects. This is when a developer or a private property owner brings forward their individual projects. So we've seen this before with a new gas station or with Tesla and their battery charging station. So these projects are just individual projects, and you must review and approve these at a quasi-judicial level. And so if you take away anything from this training session, is quasi-judicial, excuse me, the mouthful to say. But this means that there are specific findings that must be made in order to approve or deny a project. And those findings are outlined in the municipal code, and they must be adhered to. This type of decision making is much different than a governing body like a city council or board of supervisors, where there's some subjective decision making and it can be based on political opinion or perspectives. With this type of project, the current planning projects, we would have to make specific findings in order to approve or deny a project. Okay, so each of you on this commission has a role. The chair, their primary responsibility is for managing the meeting. They manage the floor and public input and comments, and they manage the commissioners' discussion and facilitate it. And all of you are decision makers, so you'll gather and evaluate facts that have been brought before you, make findings, and apply those standards outlined by the municipal code. So as a decision maker, one of your biggest jobs will be to propose a motion, which is a decision on an item. This happens after staff, mainly me, will give a presentation on an item. Then the applicant will be allowed to provide any additional feedback. Then the chair will open it up to the floor and allow for public comment, so anyone from the public can come up and speak. Then once public comment has closed, the item is brought back to the Planning Commission for discussion. And during your discussion, you are allowed to make a motion. So the motion will first, you will say, I would like to make a motion, and the chair will acknowledge you. Then you can say, I would move, and then you would say what your motion is. So I would move to approve the project as stated in the staff report. And then another member from the commission will say, I second that motion. From there, the chair will say, are you ready for a discussion? And during that, sorry, I got ahead of myself. So at this point, you can discuss the motion that is before you. The person that made the motion has the first right to the floor. And it's important to note that the only debate that you can have is on the merits of that specific motion. You can't debate other items that are not a part of that motion. And debate is typically closed if no one seeks to further debate. At the conclusion of the debate, the chair will say, are you ready to take a vote? If no one responds, this means that there is no more debate and the chair may proceed to take a vote. The chair will restate the motion and say, all those in favor say aye, all those opposed say no, and all those that abstain say aye. I got ahead of myself. So the final part is important for staff because the applicant and staff needs to know what the vote was for the record. And the chair will state the results of the vote and state whether the motion carries or the motion fails. If the motion does fail and not enough votes are made, then we start the process all over again where somebody will make a motion, somebody will second. You discuss and debate.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So, when it fails, how soon can you bring it back? The same item,
You can keep debating an item.
like at a next meeting?
You could keep debating it at that meeting. It depends on kind of.
I guess like if it fails though, then can somebody put back on the agenda the exact same agenda item that failed?
You can continue talking about it
Right.
at
talking
that
about-
point in time.
Yeah.
No.
That's up to the chair. If it's a controversial issue, the chair could ask, what's the opposition?
Mhm.
And through conversation, you can try to work your way through that. You may have to amend the motion and hopefully the second will concur. And then you would make another new motion and a second to see if it would pass.
I don't think I framed
I think
the question correctly.
I think I got you. If
Okay.
a motion fails, can you bring it back at the next meeting?
next
Or
meeting.
does it have to be 4 or 5?
Oh.
And I'll confirm with that, Commissioner Brat. Let me check. Legal would probably be a better person to ask, unless you know, Amy, off of the top of your head.
Yeah. If, say, we couldn't come to a decision, you are allowed to either continue it to the next hearing, and that would be your motion would be, we would like to continue this to the next hearing
But
date.
specifically, if it fails.
My question is specific if it
But-
fails.
If it failed, oh,
Yeah, let me check on. No, I got you. Yeah.
oh,
And
okay.
I don't know if there's a time limit or if you can come right back again because new I know if new information is present, I've seen that done
Right.
before. Hey, I have different information now. I want to bring this back because my vote is now different from that. I've seen that at the county level, but I don't know the specific answer on it. If something fails, what that turnaround is.
Sometimes if a motion fails, it's because the commission needs more information. And you could bring it back to the next meeting with that additional information. Because I've done that. I mean, we've done it. I've done it because it was simple. You just wanted more information. And sometimes the person who made the motion will say, I need more information. This is what I'm looking for.
Mhm.
And yes, so you can bring it back at the next meeting. I wanted to go back for just a moment
Mhm.
to the commission voting
Mhm.
with the ayes and the noes.
Yeah.
Sometimes a chair, especially in a controversial subject, will ask for a roll call vote, which means our clerk is going to ask each member individually how they want to vote.
Mhm.
And that's more of a, just for the record, to see where everybody's at. And that's why I say it's usually on a controversial
Mhm.
subject.
Yeah, I didn't mention it earlier because I couldn't remember if that's the way that you did it before, but that is also an option too. Yeah, it's much more formal, but it definitely helps for the
Jerry,
record.
did you get your question answered to sufficiently?
Yeah, yeah,
I'll
yeah. I think you took it in a different direction than my intent was, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll follow up with you, Commissioner.
Thank you. I
understand.
appreciate that.
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to ask all the questions as they come up. All right. So I really like this image that's on the screen. It might be kind of hard for you all to read, but it's important to know that the meeting and the project that gets brought before you is just the tip of the iceberg. And there's a lot of work that happens beforehand. We review applications and we work with the applicants to get a project to the point that we can bring it before you. So there are a number sometimes of project revisions. We also do project noticing where we notice all of the neighbors within 300 feet of the project and we put it in the newspaper. We have to do CEQA compliance. We have to draft conditions of approval. And those conditions of approval don't just come from us in planning, they also come from other departments. So we would look to the fire department, to the water district, to engineering, and we gather all of those comments and bring those forward in the conditions of approval. Mm. Sorry, I didn't realize. Perfect. All right. So at the hearing, some tips from staff. Us as staff, Joe and I and Marty, we all are a resource to you. So if you have any questions as you're reviewing a project, feel free to contact us, ask us questions about the project. It helps facilitate and can sometimes make the hearings go smoother. Stay within the four corners of the project and the required findings. So we want to make sure that we're reviewing a project based on what is proposed. If something is not proposed and not in the project description, it's not on the table for review. So if a applicant promises to do something in 5 years, unless that's in the project proposal, that's not on the table and part of the project.
And an example of where we went through that kind of thing, I think, is with Tacos Ocampos when they did their permitting process for the modular unit. And, unless it's in that condition of approval or can be added to that for them to build a restaurant in X amount of years, there's no obligation for them to do that. If it's in the COAs, we can have some, we can pull their conditional use permit. We can do things like that. But just as an example, because that was one where kind of got on the track of talking about a future restaurant and how that's going to set up, but without it being in the item or a part of the conditions of approval, there's no way to enforce that besides them saying that I do.
No teeth.
Yeah, exactly. It's there's no guarantee whatsoever.
I found it helpful also through the years prior to the public hearing. If I have questions, then I go to staff ahead
Yes.
of time.
Yeah.
And that has to be done individually. And I ask my question. That gives them a heads up in case they don't know the answer. They will research it. And then I will again ask it in the public meeting and they have an answer. I don't want to embarrass staff at any time if I can help it. So that's why personally, I would go ahead of time and see if I can find an answer. And staff is aware of what's going to happen.
And we very much appreciate that.
So next is your planning commission decision final? And so for current planning projects, the answer is yes, because you as a commission will approve conditions of approval, and then a applicant will have to comply with those conditions and complete them and then validate their permit. There is an appeal period. Oh, yeah, appeal period of 10 days. So say that you approve a project and a neighbor would like to appeal because they disagree with the decision, they can appeal it to city council, and then city council will ultimately make the final decision. But most of the time, planning commission's decision is final.
I'm gonna add something
Yeah.
quick right there to just on the conditions of approval. We've been making sure that those conditions get to our engineering firm for plan check review. So the conditions that involve the engineering piece of it are literally stamped on the plans. Now, not everything is a engineering piece, but they're verifying that through that. And then staff internally through code enforcement officers would follow up on the remaining items in those conditions of approval and making sure those are getting met.
All right. Next is the Brown Act, which is the legalities of what you can and can't do as a commission. So the Brown Act affects Board of Supervisors, City Council, commissions, anyone who creates a formal action. And this is about whether you deliberate or discuss a project. Okay. Got thrown off there. So the Brown Act would affect if there are a majority of you that discuss a project, that would be against the Brown Act because you're not allowed to discuss anything that could influence a project that could be coming before you. But there are certain exemptions for the Brown Act. Some of those are conferences or similar types of gatherings where all of you are together, where you're not discussing any projects. Open and public meetings that are held by another organization. Say there is a city council meeting and all of you show up and sit in the audience. That would not be a violation of the Brown Act because you're not discussing any projects. Purely social events, a barbecue where everyone is together, or some ceremonial, a funeral, everyone shows up, that would be exempt from the Brown Act. And yeah. The emphasis is provided that a majority of you are not discussing a project. So polling of a project is strictly prohibited. This is when maybe all of you aren't getting together, but you're talking to one member, and then that member is talking to another member about a project. And basically through the grapevine, you figure out how people are going to vote. That is also not allowed per the Brown Act. So can be no polling or discussions in that regard. It's important to know that for decisions to be made as a planning commissioner, we have to have a quorum. So since there are 5 of you, that means that a quorum makes 3 members. So for every hearing that we have to have at least 3 of you attend the hearings. If we have less than 3 members attend, we will not be able to have a quorum, so we would not be able to hold a meeting. So it's very important that you let us know in advance if you're not able to make it, so that way we can ensure that we always have a quorum. If you would like to add an item to the agenda, you can only do so if it is an emergency, if there's a newly arising item that requires immediate action, or if it's a continued item, kind of similar to what we were just discussing a little bit earlier about if you were reviewing a project and decided to continue it perhaps to another day certain, it would not need to be posted on the agenda. So more just fun meeting requirements, some of the legality parts of it. Meetings have to be in a place that does not discriminate. They cannot be held in a place that charges a fee, and they must be in a place that complies with the American Disabilities Act. So this building meets all of those requirements, which is why we have meetings typically in this room. So the public does have the right to comment on any issue brought before the Planning Commission. The public has two opportunities to comment. As we saw earlier tonight, there's a public comment period where the public can comment on anything that's not on the agenda. So that is their opportunity to discuss something maybe that they want to flag and make you aware of that you can put on a agenda at a further date, which is always an option. Or they can discuss items that are on the agenda during the public comment period. So it's important to make sure that we do allow public comment and then that's taken on an item. It's before an action is taken on an item. Next slide. Yeah. Okay. So just kind of Planning Commissioner 101 rules and regulations. Kind of things just to be mindful of is to always follow the rules. Be mindful of the Brown Act. Make sure that a majority of you are not getting together and discussing an item. Be aware of the procedures and how to make a motion and how to approve a motion. Take trainings. There's always trainings that are going on for planning commissioners at a state level and local levels. And then always know that state law is not an option. We always have to comply with state law. It's sometimes our guiding block. So if I was to drive anything else home, just in case, it's always to be prepared. Always review the staff reports ahead of time. If you have any questions, please ask us. We're tools. We're happy to help and answer your questions. If you would like, City of Willis is pretty accessible. You're welcome to go out and visit the site, do drive-bys. You're allowed to meet with the applicants, ask them questions if you would like. And you can meet with residents and other members of your community to see what their opinions are. And that would not be in violation of the Brown Act since they're not decision makers. They are just members of the community. So to prepare for decision making, set staff up for success. As we said earlier, always ask us questions. Raise concerns that you might have. It's always helpful if we know what your concerns might be in advance. Sometimes we can work through those concerns ahead of time and work with the applicant to address those concerns, or at least have an answer for you if the applicant chooses not to move forward with that. They can be prepared as to why. And then be also mindful of any requests that you have as staff. Sometimes some of the questions that you may ask may be time consuming and burdensome. So just always also just be mindful of that. So tips to constructive decision making. You do have to be objective and leave your personal opinions out of the decision making. You have to be data driven and also make sure that we're staying in those guidelines of the findings and outlining what specific qualities that the project would meet to meet those findings. And providing clear and solution-oriented feedback is also helpful. Say you don't like an aspect of a project, maybe where the entrance is, reviewing it and talking about maybe where another entrance might be located would be a solution and a possible remedy for a project. So always remember that you are representatives of your city, to be professional and to be respectful of each other and members of the public and everyone that is involved in projects like this. So these are just some resources. The California Attorney General talks about Brown Act if you have a lot of questions about that. The League of California Cities is an excellent tool, especially for planning commissioners. They host a lot of training sessions. I think that Joe and Marty are also like on their subscription list. So if there are any trainings coming up, we can always let you know about that. And then the Institute of Local Government is another helpful tool just about planning and the basics of running a commission. All right, so that is it for my training.
You're through?
Yeah,
Wow.
I know, it was fast. And I know the majority of you have heard it, so I want to hit the highlights.
And we'll make
Thank you
sure
very
that you
much.
guys, send you guys the PowerPoint slide along with any other training materials that we have. And if you guys have questions that pop up and in the off time, shoot them on over to us. And as Amy mentioned, we look through California League of Cities and trainings come out, but I think we'll try a little more proactive to see if we can get some in-person or virtual trainings out to you guys too, and see if we can make that work. So,
I just want to ask if anybody has any questions right now.
Thank you.
You did a great job if we have no questions. Okay. Let's see. We've done 6, 7. Discussion and action calendar. We will do 7A. All matters on the discussion and action calendar will be discussed and acted on individually. Individuals wishing to speak on these items are asked to complete a speaker card and submit it to the city clerk. Comments should be directed to the chair and commissioners and are limited to 3 minutes. By law, the commission cannot discuss or take action on items not listed on the posted agenda. A, Title 5 through 8 Municipal Code Update. Recommended action is to discuss the proposed municipal code updates to Titles 5 through 8, and upon conclusion, provide comments and recommendations for incorporation into a future formal recommendation to the City Council. So if you have your information, we'll start in.
yeah, thanks for that. Apologies if we didn't get this information out with some of the titled red lines to you guys earlier, if you didn't have time to review. Just want to note, as always, if you review in the future after this meeting, please send your comments over to us via email or give us a call individually, and we can talk about or discuss certain things. So at this one, these titles do not directly relate a lot to the planning piece of it. These titles are also being reviewed by the city council as well. So your guys' input is welcome on them all. This is for titles 5, which is business license, franchise agreements, regulations. One part of the planning process that this does tie into is business license applications are kind of our first step to knowing if they need to come see you guys. So if we get a business license application and they want to start a business in the wrong, or not the wrong, but a zone they're not supposed to, right? We can inform them on different ways of a zone change if we think it's a good idea. And then other things like design review, right? They're building a new McDonald's. We're going to bring that for a design review. So that piece of it does relate a little bit to the business license portion. And if it requires the CUP in order to be in that zoning, then you guys obviously would be the people deciding and voting on what conditions are done and what they do. So business licenses does kind of lead into your guys's processes. It is how we know a new business is coming to town, which tees us up to ask all the questions and see what level of review they need. So there is a little bit of a nexus there.
A CUP is a conditional use permit, in case someone doesn't know.
I really don't like hearing myself. Perfect. Title 6 is animals. Not a lot to do with planning commission whatsoever. Feel free to offer any comments though. And then title 8 is health and safety, which has a little bit of, it's more of a code enforcement side of it. It does deal with nuisances and things of that nature. Not a lot that would come through the commission. So I don't really have a lot. If you guys have things that you reviewed or questions you want to ask that you want to discuss here, we can do that. So I'll take any questions if you guys have them.
Well, I would like to go through it page by page like I did previously, because we were able to do that very quickly.
Yeah.
Well, there are some pages there will be no comments on. Some of it is like you put he instead of he and she.
Yeah.
So
if you want to email me those comments so we don't have to sit here and discuss every little nuance about it, this is more for just an overall discussion regarding the policy of it. And like I said, a lot of it doesn't relate to planning. So we don't have to go through it page by page. I mean, that's at the discretion of the commission.
I would like to have a little bit more time to look at it and definitely email my questions and comments.
Yeah, I can email mine to you also. What is the pleasure of the commission? You want to deal with it tonight or take a little more time and um, email to Joe and have it come back with the corrections or the suggested corrections that we want to input?
I'd like to review it and have time to
Okay,
input.
that's fine. I spent all afternoon reading this thing.
And we do want all the comments, but if they're small, the big items we want to discuss, again, apologies if some people didn't get it earlier. We should have sent out the red line notice and the actual electronic copy. So that is on staff for that one. But if there's bigger ideas as well that you think would need discussion or in order to make a change, or maybe I'll determine that and say, hey, we need to bring this back in front of the full commission in order to discuss before we say, hey, we're going to implement that, then that's what we can do as well. But if I can get your comments and things, not that we can't bring it back and discuss if it's a bigger issue. But I think to give people time to review and kind of see what they think about it would.
But that's fine. Some of it is editing, as
Okay.
I said. Some of it is like on this particular page I'm looking at, 510.070. It starts out that the chief of police may, upon notice, got to get this up closer, an opportunity to be heard. Now, I'm not sure if part of that is struck out or not, but currently we do not have a chief of police.
Correct.
So we have to address that somehow or another.
Isn't it fair to say that we may have at some time,
Well,
hope to?
that's the other side of that coin. If we do have one soon, then that would be appropriate.
Yes.
But we may have to have some kind of consideration for two staff people until, a priority one might be the chief of police and an alternate would be somebody else until we get someone.
No, and that's a very good valid point. I know we've seen that in some of the other chapters where it said chief of police, and it's, we can't have that.
It does say or designated city official, but we did discuss earlier
Yes.
who that is.
Yes, correct
Maybe a little bit more specific
on that. And
direction.
normally when that happens too, I don't know if this is the case, but when it's or designated official, it's, the chief of police is the one designating that official. But it can be city council as well. But if there's nobody designated in that piece, and now with, it was a little more streamlined with animal control and the sheriff's contract, but now that's
Would that be
got
go
its
back
issues.
to city council?
up for the designee. So I know they're looking at updating that language. I just don't know why that one got missed in this area, because we have identified the chief of police. And as Chair Quorum said, we need something that is, it's not a person's name, so it's not that bad, but it's not an official title that the city currently has in its budget or is budgeted. The designee works, but it does need to be officially done. And I don't know if that has been, but yes, no, very good point. And if there's any other points like that, we can definitely discuss those. Like I said, those higher level points. I know the chief of police thing has been brought up before and we've identified it. Sometimes it just gets missed.
Throughout the document, there are a number of places that says chief of police.
Yeah.
But you've also put an alternative person in that position.
Yep. And that's maybe the way that they wanted to leave it at this time, and somebody would be designated, or potentially the sheriff was already designated in lieu of the chief of police prior. But it does at least have that authority granting power if that person of the official title is not able to be there or doesn't exist in this case.
So if it's agreeable, then I'm hearing everyone would like to take another month to look at it, and probably 2 or 3 weeks, so we can get all that to Joe so he has time to process it, and then it'll come back on our next meeting. I don't know if that's going to be the meeting for the end of July or the first meeting in August.
With Title 18 coming in July, I think that'll probably be enough for that. But we can, just depending on the amount of material and things that we feel need discussion, we can see if that's an option for that day.
Okay. Well, a matter of a week's difference, so.
Yeah,
It's not too much.
I have a question.
Yes.
I thought that I heard you say that the city council is actually looking at this and they're the ones that are actually going to be making the decision.
So the city council, what we'll do is we'll take your guys' comments and then we can provide them back to,
To the city
with,
council.
with council's
Mhm.
comments as well. And then it's kind of looked at it as a whole and goes back. So everything is going to go back at the end of the day to the city attorney for the final, not the city attorney, sorry, Prentice Long, for the final, making sure the references all line up, right? That we didn't miss any, because as things change, we need to kind of compile the final draft. And then if we have to fix references, we'll do that. And now for Title 18, because it's specific to planning, that'll be coming before you guys for a hopeful recommendation to city council. Now that recommendation doesn't have to say we're doing it exactly like you presented it, right? We're going to have discussion and you can recommend with modification, you can not recommend it, those kinds of things. But yes, you guys are looking at it as we receive them. The city council receives them and you guys receive them. And then we try to get feedback on that so we can implement changes into
But
it.
this piece here, actually, they could decide something before we even saw it again, right?
I don't think that. No, I don't.
That's it.
Timing wise, we'll make sure that doesn't.
I was just
happen.
curious.
Yeah,
They do have the say.
absolutely. And we don't want to get too far out in a timeline because we are trying to wrap this up
Right.
as quick as possible. But you guys are at the current titles that they're at right now. So
Okay.
they've received 5 through 8. You've received 5 through 8. So we're really trying to, so that wouldn't happen. Right. So we're going to bring it all back for 18's a little different, but the whole thing will come back after we receive comments coming through.
Oh,
So,
Thank you.
but yeah, no problem.
Would it be better if we had a deadline to get our comments back to you? So it was.
So absolutely. And
Okay.
I'll put that out there. And what I'll do is I'll make sure we send a digital version to you guys with the red line. So in case you want to look at it there, apologies, that didn't happen on the first go. And then we'll set up 3 weeks, if you could have them back by this time in order to make this meeting. And then if you have stuff after that, like I said, you can just keep sending it in. Send me anything and everything that you see. You can make handwritten notes and scan it and send it to me. You can make handwritten notes, bring it to the office and I'll scan it and make a copy of it for you. So don't feel like you've got to type it up, do whatever's you're most comfortable in reviewing. I know I get tired of looking at a screen all day and then looking at a screen some more. So, and we can definitely, do it that way. So whatever works for you guys, but we'll send out another email with the Word version of the red line and then some dates to try to target.
Thank you. Any questions over here? Clear as mud? Okay, we've taken care of that. Our next item is comments and reports. 8A, commission comments and reports, and 8B, staff comments and reports. So we'll start over here with Sherry for any comments or reports.
So I have a comment / question. I just got back from vacation and a lot of things that are going on in the city I read on Facebook. You never know on Facebook if you're getting half truths, no truths, or truth, it's a lot of opinions.
Yes.
But one of the things I'm seeing a lot, and I think it pertains to the Planning Commission, or could possibly, and that's why I'm bringing it up, is sewer rate increase. And I'm just curious if what I'm reading is that if you don't write this certain letter, then you're voting yes. And I'd like to know what the actual truth is on that.
So the process follows I believe it's a state law. So any 218, which is an enterprise fund. So if it's water, sewer, drainage, they're their own separate pots of money. So in order to change fees, you go through this process. There's a 45-day noticing period where we mail out notices to everybody within the city of Willows, and in this case, Northeast Willows Community Service District. That protest period, yes, it is a protest period. So the obligation is on the resident to protest the rate increase. So they would write the letter. We collect those letters, and then we will be basically validating them the day of the meeting on July 14th. But yeah, the protest, it is a protest letter. It's not a vote for yes. You need to send this letter in if you want to protest this. And I believe the standard for that is 50% plus one vote.
So if you got that many, then you wouldn't put it on, there would be no vote by the city council. That's the piece I don't understand. And I didn't get a letter.
If I don't want to, I can't get into that. I don't know exactly how it works. My understanding is if they meet that protest, it does not go through.
Okay. I was
So-
just curious because I thought it kind of pertains to us in the sense that if it goes through, would that impact a business? Or, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
yeah,
I thought
yep.
it was okay if I brought it up.
Yep. Nope. And like I said, they have till July 14th for that. But they can bring their protest letter to the meeting as well. And then it's, obviously it's council's decision to adopt.
Okay.
So they
But
do.
if they actually get all the protest letters, then they cannot adopt
I
it?
believe that is
Believe
the
it.
case. I can't be 100% on that, but I think if you break that threshold, say if it's a town of 6,000 people and you get 3,000 people in one vote,
Then
it's
then-
it doesn't move forward.
Oh, that's interesting.
And-
And then, Joe, I didn't get any notice from the city. How do I rectify that? Tell us about it.
If you didn't receive one, I can get you another one.
Okay.
It's not within the 45-day noticing period. So we use a process where we collect all the addresses from Parcel Quest and then get them mailed out. So sometimes there can be mailing issues or things like that.
And
But
honestly, my husband could have gotten the mail and thrown it away.
It-
I'm just saying I haven't seen it.
it's not a very it does look, so that happens. But yeah, they can come in and we can print them another copy of it and get them the information. But it is a letter of protest with the address, and the APN has to be within the city limits, obviously, and it has to be with the property owner, not the renter.
And then does it also explain, does it come from the city? Does it explain why they want to do the rate?
Yes,
That-
it is actually very detailed.
Okay.
No, it's about 3 pages. Explains what we're doing, the driving factors behind it. A lot of this is infrastructure upgrades and deferred maintenance that we've been doing. So we've got about $7 million in CIP projects planned over that 5-year period. And with the goal being that we don't really have to increase that 7 million at the next 5 years. It's kind of, we feel like a good place that if we can do $7 million over 5 years worth of sewer main replacements, wastewater treatment plant upgrades, that we can then keep it there. So it's not a constant climbing scale, but we do need to get to a point where we've got enough money that we can replace some of this. Our average mainline sewer is about 100 years old. So there's other instances of Chico. He had a very long deferred maintenance, and I think there was one up 160%. So to avoid a major shock like that, we did have an increase 5 years ago, and we are going to have an increase now. The first one was mainly, I think, catch up and operationally getting set with a small CIP, I believe, of about $1 to $2 million, which nowadays isn't a lot to do much. So, but yes, it does explain all that. Sorry for going on and on about that.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
then may I have one final comment?
Well, I don't know. You've said that 2 times now.
Sorry. Does the city put, I hate reading everything on Facebook. I just don't think it's a good look for Willows, but I realize that's where a lot of our news comes from these days. But does the city put anything on their page when these different things come up, just stating the facts of what's going on, not
Well,
opinions, but just this. this
and we don't try to get too back and forth on Facebook things either.
I'm talking on your webpage,
So-
not Facebook.
Yeah, so we have it on our webpage.
It is on there.
I did a big write up on the newsletter. So if people read the monthly newsletters,
Okay.
it would probably clear up a lot of the questions that people have and the bad
Okay.
assumptions they have about the park project and what the sewer rate study does. Nobody likes a new tax. Obviously, that can happen, but the fact of the matter is it's needed and we can defer it. We're still going to need to fix it later, or we're going to have a catastrophic emergency.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so we don't post a lot on the Facebook unless it's a real press release, but the newsletters and the website do contain a lot of information.
So it is on, okay.
Yeah.
I need to look at the website more. Thank you.
Yeah, and
That's
we
good to
encourage
know.
everybody to sign up. Whoever's out there in virtual world, sign up for our newsletter. it releases, we do a very in-depth and a lot of information every month. We release one. And then at the end of the year, we kind of do a recap. So I believe they can sign up for that on our website or email Carlene at kprice@cityofwillows.org.
Okay, thank you. That's
Yeah.
good information.
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm done.
I got my letter, and you probably can get all that information off of the city's
Off the
website.
website. I'm going to
Yes.
look at it.
I'm sure you can. So, yeah. Robin, you have any comments?
Just a quick follow-up on Sherry's. Can you tell me when the letters went out?
They went out 45 days before July 14th.
Okay.
No, it was about a week before that, I
And-
think.
Am I understanding that there's a letter in there, or you need a letter written with specific information?
There's a letter explaining everything and instructions
Explaining everything, but then instructions on,
how to submit.
Okay.
Yeah, very detailed instructions on what
Okay.
you need to submit.
and then just one last comment. I do think that the staff or whoever is responsible for some of the information that has been posted for the city, some of the events that have been happening. And I think that you guys have been doing a really good job putting some of that stuff on. I am on the newsletter. And I think it's very helpful. Again, I don't really like all the Facebook or Instagram, any of that social media kind of clouds what's really going on. So yeah, I suggest everybody, sign up for the newsletter, and thank you to staff for, posting and being a little bit more proactive with information. I think it helps with the community and to answer some questions. There's always going to be questions, but I think
Absolutely.
it does help clean up some of the gossip and the misunderstanding of what's really going on. And that's all I have.
Staff,
Any-
staff
anybody?
does put good, we try to put as much effort into that as possible, and Carlene does a great job of, and that's been the goal, is to try to get good factual information out there. And yeah, it is, and it's tough. There's the social media aspect of it, but yeah, so appreciate that.
Okay. Jesse?
I just have one question. Is there any possibility of us commissioners getting documentation to review like 5 business days prior? As someone who likes to overthink things and really
Yes.
read through them, it's just difficult, especially on like a holiday weekend, if we don't have enough time to review, especially the hefty ones.
Yeah.
I think the first thing I got was Title 18 when I started, so I might just have a little bit of PTSD from that one, but I was just wondering if that's
Yeah. So Carlene was just showing me an email. Sorry if it didn't make it through, but those attachments were supposed to have been sent to you guys in that email. So we might have it.
I did see an attachment, and we talked about that, but we could not
uh,
open or find. the
Okay, so
attachment. It-
just let us know if that happens again. And like I said, it looks like some sort of technical difficulties. And to be honest with you, we try to get it out as early as possible. But we also sometimes want to bring it as quickly as possible, but something on a municipal code review. So I'm going to use Title 18, for example, coming up. We just received their red line version of Title 18 based off the previous comments that were made. I'll be looking that over this week, and we'll try to get it out to you guys either early next week or by the end of this week, way ahead of the agenda. So you'll have plenty of time to review that ahead of it. Sometimes things come in on July 8th, and we try to get it going, but we don't want to hit you with those very complex, hard items like that. So yes, we will try our best to get it out as early as possible. For us, it's usually timing issues of getting everything done, and then we've got to be a couple days in order to get it out Friday. We've got to have it done Wednesday, so it really is a bigger pushback. But we will make every effort we can to get you guys that to have enough time to review.
Thank
you.
Okay, Michael.
Yeah, so I did get an email on May 29th that had the attachment. So I don't know, maybe not, just maybe check just in case it didn't come through. So yeah, so I was able to review it.
Good.
But my question, or something I wanted to bring up today. So it's been a couple months, maybe even 3 months since we approved that project here on Lassen Street, that modular home.
Yes.
Has there been any movement or anything? I mean, everything looks the same. It would
Yes.
just be nice to see like a work truck out there or something. But I'm just curious if you've heard anything from the owner.
Perfect time. I know you guys got one more, but it's in my staff updates. I'm going to try to keep you abreast of things that have passed and upcoming things a little better too. So 337 North Laston, they got their plans approved and are currently working on their encroachment permit. I'll be honest, things have slowed again, which is concerning to us. So we'll be writing a letter to make sure that they're still on track. If you remember in those conditions of approval, I think we did a 6-month completion from the passing of the conditions of approval. So that's a pretty tight timeline. So we will be following up with him, reminding him of that timeline. Again, encroachment permits aren't the most complicated things in a housing project. So it's been a little disheartening to see paperwork has been submitted, but not correctly multiple times. So progress internally as far as the plans getting approved and those kinds of things. But yes, the construction piece of it, we need to get through this encroachment permit. And then once he has that, he can basically go. And for explanation, encroachment permit is basically a traffic control sign, some bonding and stuff so that when you work in our road right of way, you put it back the way you got it and you set up the traffic control. So when he connects his water to the front and his sewer to the back in our streets, that he knows and understands that he'll put it back the way he found it. And that he's, we get a loan from him. The thing that's kind of struggled is the traffic control plan. So long story short, it's been moving and it has slowed, and we will be reminding them of the tight timeline.
Thank you.
Well, I will say ditto because I was going to ask about the same thing because I have seen nothing happening down there. I attended 2 council meetings, if that's worthy of a comment or a report. And Sherry, I would like to tag along with what you had to say. I read a lot of the social media just to see what people are saying. I have found a lot of it is inaccurate. And one individual wrote in their other complaints that our municipal code update had not been updated. So I was able to write back and say, we in the Planning Commission are working our way through it. Well, they didn't know that because they don't come to planning commissions. But I felt okay that I could at least say it is being done, whether you know it or not. And they thanked me. So, I don't like to answer people's Facebook stuff because so much of it's critical, but I felt that was important to correct. And so, yeah, it's interesting to say the least. Okay, I don't have anything else. And do you have something you would like to add, Joe?
Yeah, I'll give you some updates. I'll try to get through it quick, but let me know if you have any questions on my updates as well. Just wanted to update you guys on the wayfinding signs. We have them. What we're now doing is they're really big and we're mounting them on our single antique pole. So we were making sure and coming up with a way that they're going to stay there and be windproof. So we're kind of currently getting bigger inserts that are bigger than a regular stop sign would sit on and all the things to strap these up. But we do have them. We've actually removed the one in front of Fu Hing's there on Sycamore in Tehama and are working on getting one built at the shop and kind of making sure it's going to be windproof and be all right. So we hope in the next 2 weeks or so that we'll have all those up. We talked about the modular already at 337 Lassen. Update on Tesla. I won't say it's really bad news, but they thought they were going to kind of get expedited by PG&E and it wasn't going to be as long. They have now came back and told us, they being Masako Hill at Tesla, that PG&E expects upgrades not to be complete until September of 2027. So that's power infrastructure upgrades they need. They're still moving forward on their plans and looking to submit them, I think, by the end of the month so that they can be ready to go. We've sent an email to our PG&E representative. He's kind of a local area representatives for cities and counties, urging them to, consider this as an infrastructure upgrade for I-5 freeway traffic. It's a little more important than maybe a regular project and seeing if there's any way this could be expedited. I have not heard back from them in about a week and a half, so I'll be sending another email. Fact of the matter is, though, it could be lead time on some of this bigger equipment. Probably a pretty big power upgrade. So hopefully I'll have some more information. I'll keep you guys aware of what's going on there. And then real quick, just on some upcoming stuff, as you know, everybody was able to adjust their date, and that was to accommodate Harrison Associates, Delaney Garlic, so she could be here. She had other obligations on August 4th. So we'll be moving that meeting to July 29th, and that'll be Title 18. Again, I'll try to have that out to you at the end of this week or early next week, so you guys can start your review way ahead of the agenda being out. The cannabis shop at 130 North Butte Street. That's the one that's not currently open. They're going to need to come for a design review on their stickers for their logo. So I'm assuming that will be at the end of the month. They're currently up. We told them to take them down until design review is complete. So I'd expect that to hit next month. North Valley Indian Health. They have not been before you guys for a design review. They're looking to build a behavioral health building. I think I brought it up one of my previous updates. It will be a two-story building located just to the west of the current, the original medical building. It's an empty lot where two houses were. We are having an issue with the parking requirements. And so we were working with them on getting through that, but we hope that we can help them meet the requirements and present a design review to you guys in the upcoming months. I wouldn't expect that next month, but maybe the one after that, which is a great building. But I think as we all know, it's a little impacted down there with parking currently. So we're just trying to get the best item forward for you guys to consider. One other piece, Peterson Cat has submitted. So currently there's a Holt Ag Solutions on Thames Street, and that used to be Peterson Cat Tractor. Peterson Cat is looking to come back to town. And they are looking to go into the Swift station. Originally, they were looking to be in there by July. The reason I'm bringing that for Planning Commission, it's already zoned good, all of that stuff, but they will be looking to do like a giant big pole mount sign eventually. So that will come before you. And honestly, I expect that. I think they're going to get up and running first, and then they're going to work on that freeway signage there. But another opportunity coming to the south end of town, which is also just a double benefit because Swift rebuilt their whole building and then weren't there. So I'm glad to have somebody looking at moving in there. And with that, that is me trying to be quick, which is never quick. I include my report.
Do you have any update on Chevron and what they plan to do?
Yeah, so Chevron's still moving forward. They're in plan development and moving along good. They've recently reached out. Something that will be coming to City Council will be the abatement of South Court, which is kind of the bulb like is in front of Chevron, because they're looking to build over that, and that is a public road. So I think
In the cul-de-sac.
yes, correct. And I think the idea of those cul-de-sacs originally were to give access to businesses. Well, if it's all one business, but there's not an issue. So our engineers working on the vacation side, that'll be presented to council. They're simultaneously working on their building plans and specifications. So we're hoping that those marry up very well, or we beat them on plan submittal. But yeah, I think, they're probably at 50 or 60% of their plans and getting it figured out. They've got environmental regulation, obviously, and a lot of that kind of stuff too. But it seems to be going smooth, and they are eagerly and working with us. But right now, there's not a lot going on my end of it. There's the engineers working on the vacation piece for presentation to council, and they're working on their plan piece of it. But no changes since the design review came through. It'd be 9 commercial fueling stations with the fast food restaurant, and all the things originally proposed out there.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Do you mind, Keith, if I ask?
Yes.
It's okay. What about the pool?
So
Since we're talking about all the updates.
So the pool is ready to go back out to bid. It was over budget on the first one. We eliminated the walking path piece of it so that we can put more money towards the pool part of it.
Mhm.
So we should be getting an amendment from the state to reallocate those funds from the walking path to the pool any day now, honestly. So once we get that, we'll go back out to bid. We'll bid it for a month. Hopefully get a responsive bid that's within budget. The way we packaged it this go around was the pool is the main, and then we made about 3 or 4 other bid alternates. So if for some reason the whole package comes in over, we can take out certain things like we're not going to do these benches, or we're not going to do this without having to go out to bid. So we've restructured it in a way to hopefully not have to do this again. So bid it for a month. Hopefully we'll be out to bid in the next 2 weeks or so. Bidding process is a month, get a contractor, award the contract and kind of go from there. We've got about 130 working day timeline on the project, which we do feel is pretty reasonable for a contractor to finish in that time. So that puts us on a timeline. If we got started in October, we'd be done, I think, at the middle of April or end of March. And the grant goes, our expenditure deadline is September 27th. So the last day we could spend money is September. So we're very optimistic that our timeline is still good.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
get back out to bid. Yeah. So
That's good to hear.
yeah, absolutely. Honestly, taking out the walking path piece of it because of ADA compliance, it's not just take the walking path out and put in concrete. You got to level a lot
Right.
of it, right? And so there was a lot of money and a lot of time in that groundwork. And now it's, we're kind of the pool, the tennis courts, amenities around the walking path, exterior sidewalks, and so pickleball courts and the lighting and all of that stuff. So it really cut that
I
timeline
actually
down.
think that sounds better.
I
I
think
think people enjoy that path. going
yes,
Up and down.
and you would lose a lot of the contour, right? And the reality of the situation is the pool's not open, the tennis courts aren't open, the walking path you can walk on. So we've deferred it until future funding is available.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to adjourn before you have another question. Adjourn.